I first of all would like to say that audiovisual accessibility is one of the main principles stipulated by the UN Convention on Human Rights of People with Disabilities have been ratified by Ukraine, and that's a part of the Ukrainian legislation. That is why, taking into consideration these concepts and elements, we just could wrap up the whole our discussion, because, of course, accessibility is an element of human rights, and in particular in Ukraine, it's stipulated by the Ukrainian legislation, and for me, there are no doubts that accessibility to theater, cinema, or any cultural event should be ensured for all people. For all people with some disabilities, for hearing, visibility, visual impaired people with disabilities. So our civil organization fights for rights, works in this sphere, and our operations are based with the initiatives of accessible cinema. Another element appears when we speak about actually direct implementation in practice of this thing, because accessibility is being stipulated in Ukraine by the law, and how each person really could have access to any theatrical performance, any cinema, or any other art of audiovisual performance. And now we have positive examples in Ukraine how actually culture and art become accessible for people with different disabilities and impairments, but unfortunately it's not so scaled up as it's wanted. Not all performances, movies, theatrical plays are not accessible for almost everyone. One more important thing, Victoria, I'm very sorry, could you somehow just use your mic and put it a bit closer, because some words we lost them. I'm sorry, 1 second please. Could you hear me better right now? Yes, thank you. A very important aspect that I would like to underline. One of the principles of the UN Convention on Human Rights of People with Disabilities is actually accessibility. And we speak not only about accessibility of information, but also of the accessibility to different premises and institutions. Because right now, when we are speaking that a cultural institution provides an access to information that exists there, but actually there is no physical access to the premises where this institution is being located. And it doesn't matter where, what we mean, theater, museum, institute, cinema. How then people with disabilities could ensure and exercise their human rights and have access to this cultural product? That's not a rhetorical question, but it means that they can't exercise their human rights. And when we speak about that the content is accessible somewhere on-prem, we should also ensure accessibility to the premises where this content is published or being located. That's an important thing I would like to mention. I would like also to know, that's very interesting for me, to know best practices and actual situation in other countries. What is the state-of-the-art trends and tendencies in other countries? And answering to the topic of today's discussion, I think there are no doubts and there are no questions whether accessibility is a part of human rights or accessibility is too much to ask. No, it's not too much to ask. Accessibility is one of the fundamental human rights that should be ensured and implemented within all cultural events that take place in any country. Okay, as to the last part of today's topic for this discussion, of whether this is a good business or not. Could you gain money here? Could you recommend people to work in the sphere of audio description? Whether is it possible to earn money here in this sphere? What are the funds taken from in the sphere? So please tell us more about it. Actually, yes. Our approach, how to solve this problem, is a business approach we position ourselves as a social business organization. We are not a volunteering organization. We say yes, it's possible. Accessibility is a market that is not widely experienced here in Ukraine, but still new market players come, new demands, market demands appear, and here is important why what is the value of accessibility, why it's important, because actually it ensures engagement of new audience to those products which exist on the market. In Ukraine, we have around 1 million of people with hearing or visual impairments. So that's a new potential audience that could come to a cinema to watch a movie if it's accessible. Of course, not tomorrow, not now, but it's a potential audience for future. If we understand there is a demand on the market, if we understand that society wants actually to be engaged on all the stages, to be engaged in the cultural life of society, and for these people with disabilities, then for the content producers, this becomes a new source of the audience that earlier was not considered as the audience at all, and that's actually a huge business component, because when we ensure accessibility, we invite those people who had never had earlier opportunity to visit a theater, a cinema, to come there, and then we open the doors to them, we sell more tickets, and that's a topic for discussion, and that's a really important element. Thank you, Victoria. And now I give a floor to Irina Lebedeva. Thank you. Continuing the topic of accessibility, I want to tell you more about this, our pilot project with students regarding localization and subtitling. And I ask Maxim to please to start the first 3 seconds of the video. Thank you. That's a pause. I am a mentor in the organization of Women in Localization in Ukraine. We are dealing with professional development and support, and also co-support within the community of localization specialists. And we noticed that exists that there is a lack of specialists in the sphere of the Ukrainian language subtitles, so we thought how we could help here. And we decided that it's a good idea to start with a pilot project of students on-job trainings within cooperation with pros.com. Let's start the video. Yes, pause again, please. So, we decided to initiate this pilot project of practical experience, and we wanted to have it implemented in the real conditions. That's why we took a real course, function course on the website pros.com, and implemented a full circle of localization of the web page of this course, and also we implemented the full course of subtitles for this training, for this course. We really didn't expect it that this pilot project could gain so much attention. Within just the few first days, we received more than 40 applications for participation in our on-the-job trainings. 10 participants, female participants, students of the different higher educational facilities around Ukraine participated in our project. Duration of the practice was 6 weeks, and each of our participants did different tasks in the amount of 90 working hours. Also, we arranged different working meetings where we discussed some technical issues, how to work on the different stages, what instruments should be used. Our participants, major part of our participants, were unexperienced in the sphere of subtitles, but two participants had already some experience in this sphere, and it really simplified our goal because they worked a lot within each other in one group. So it was such a co-peering support, a team project. It means that our participants didn't work alone, but they worked in one team. Our practice was divided into 9 working stages. We did a full circle of works in the sphere of subtitles. We had a source English video without any previous subtitles. And during our work, we used a lot of professional instruments and programs, and I will go into details about it a little bit further. Let's go to our video. Please, next slide. Yes, thank you. Stop the video, please. Thank you. So actually, the final video, first of all, we created for it some automated subtitles. I mean English subtitles. Upon each stage, we had quality assurance. Then we synchronized subtitles. The next step, we developed a glossary for the given project. We connected this project to SmartCat. I mean, the translation of subtitles was done in the SmartCat program, and that means that all the participants had parallel access to this program, to the SmartCat. It means that they worked in real time within one and the same environment. So they had just consulted with me, they had peer review with each other. Really, it was a great team project in real conditions and real work. Next slide. No, so sorry, please, the same slide. Go to the previous one. Yeah, thank you. On the bottom of the slide, you could see a list of different software and platforms that we have reviewed and learned during our work. And with these platforms and tools, we actually worked within our project. And also, I've introduced some new elements. For example, on the final stage, when we already prepared some Ukrainian subtitle files, I actually broke the code of these files because it happens. It's real life. So I just created this obstacle, and it means that on the final stage, they had to deal with this coding problem. They needed to overcome this problem and find a solution. It was really a real life experiment, and I want right now to share with you some reflections and thoughts of some of our participants. It's just around 1 minute video. They will share with you their own experience, how it was for them. Please start our video. I'm very happy that I had this chance to be in the 10 first students who participated in the given on-the-job training. For me, it was the first experience of localization and really the first experience of working with the CAD tools. I learned how to work with the team, with the scrap tools, with engine, and how to work through WhatsApp. I learned about those tools and programs that could be used for transcribing of different videos, how to develop a glossary, how to synchronize subtitles with videos, and so on. For me, of the utmost importance was creation of different glossaries through the Sketch Energy platform, because unfortunately during my university studies I didn't know how to do it. I haven't received this knowledge. Despite of the distance learning and distant and remote work, all those tasks were provided very clearly and then easy for understanding, and all answers were full in their volume. For me, it was the first experience working in the team, and it was the main challenge for me. We are all worked as one team. We just corrected our mistakes, decided how to do it better, and listened to opinions of each other. When we watched the final files, I was so proud of our team because we managed to do it. We were as a one team. We received final results that could be submitted to the final clients. A pause, please. Actually, everything we did even better than we had imagined and planned in the very beginning, prior to the start. So we decided to continue our work, and the next our track of the on-the-job training from women and localization in Ukraine and pros.com will start just within 1 month in September this year. So if you are interested in this project, please join us. We invite the students to invite to our project. One more slide, please. Yes, so on the final slide here, you could see my contact details. If you have any questions, if you would like to ask me anything or to leave a comment, please get in touch with me. Thank you. Thank you, Irina. And we have a few minutes for your speeches. And first of all, I would like to express gratitude for your project, as it was mentioned by one of the participants. They haven't learned it at the university, so for them it was a challenge how to find out about it. What actually you learned upon this practice? What was the result of it? Yes, so that was a fully implemented practice. It was a 90-hour practice, and it was just considered as an on-the-job training for all the students of different universities for linguistic departments. So did you agree with different universities? We have in our agreements some provisions that a student prior to the start of this practice should come and agree with their tutors or supervisors in the universities and agree whether this practice could be really considered as a practice for universities. Many universities thanked us and told us that yes, that's a great program, and this program would be considered as the on-the-job training and on-the-job practice, and it's very good. Do you know whether your participants would like to continue working in the sphere? Yes, yeah, 2 of them or even 3 of our participants have already actively working in the sphere. One of our participants is a permanent translator of the Youth Cinema Festival. So some of them came to us with some specific experience, but other participants, for them, they liked a lot this sphere of activities, and I know that they have already submitted some applications to participation in different trainings or in different projects. For example, they submitted application to the project of our linguistic Center of Anesthesia, so they are wonderful, they are great. I hope that they will stay in the sphere. And what standards have you used in your project, international or your own projects? International or own standards? International, of course, international standards. It actually, a lot of standards also is a huge challenge, because many Ukrainian standards were translated from the international standards. And for example, I often tell to the Ukrainian translators that you don't only translate the text, you translate the content, you look at the subtitles. And I would like to recommend to the students the major part of job posts in this sphere you could see and you could find on the pros.com. Yes, and actually
now the time is actually passing by very quickly. Yes, in fact, after the full range of work on translation, we did a stage for final quality control, where we were dealing with the final synchronization with the world order, which is different in Ukraine. So we corrected even these things, and we united in more logical way different lines to have the best logic here. The very last question to you. What kinds of videos have you taken of a generic use or not? It was a course on the subtitling uh, created by Havla Bandina. He is well-known expert in this area, and this course was available at pros.com. It is a 3-hour video, so therefore we've created this full-fledged cycle of training. And a couple of words here to add. As we have selected a course on subtitling, simply aiming at this full cycle for our participants, but to let them have a full-scale learning process, because Hafa's course have a full range of tools. How it all goes is explained, so they experience the full-fledged course. It's such a good news that everything is going to be available for Ukrainians, and we are going to submit our application for the next course. Thank you so much. And now the floor is given to Anastasia Struk from the Linguistic Center. So thank you so much. Is it possible to see my presentation on the screen? So far, I'm going to tell you that there is a real good chance to participate in this course, because, of course, it was a pivotal for us while we selected different team members for different projects. We have several technical issues here, and now we are going to continue our presentation. We can't see the presentation so far. Here it is. I was so afraid that my presentation will not be visible. Now everything is perfect. So, I'd like to tell you the services of mentoring and design for business. I'm working at the Linguistic Center company, and everyone who's following us, thank you, and who don't, please do that. 23 years we have been participating in numerous projects. So it is not a coincidence that we have decided to learn how to add the accessibility services into our business. And first, we try to investigate to make a research on what the situation in Ukraine is. And first, we have learned that on the legislation level, the services on accessibility should have been provided, but they shouldn't. And 95% of all our examples have been provided by the volunteers and different non-governmental organizations or the relatives of people with disabilities, and these existing examples were provided in Russian. And what we have learned is the following. As here in Ukraine, a lot of work has been done on physical accessibility, the social part is actually not as good as um, we wanted, and the most complicated and twisted thing we faced it is that there is no unified strategy on how we can implement the services and what the range of them should be provided. The main issues we were interested in and how we can offer the services if we don't know what the services should be considered as a good or badly developed. So what's the criteria, what are the criteria for the effectiveness and the quality, who is going to be a supplier of service if there are no specific trainings for experts. And of course, that time we didn't have any. And the main issues, and we are still facing it, how we can sell the client services if he doesn't know that he actually needs them. So we have developed our favorite strategy in answering to these difficult questions. So we have organized the first conference in Lviv on inclusive communication, the communication without barriers. So we invited experts on web accessibility, sign language, audio description, and physical accessibility and inclusive training. And we also have learned lots of answers to our main questions, and we have become acquainted with people who were actually zealots in those things, and we then started to create a project with them. And one of the co-authors of these people was Oksana Potimka. Oksana, for me, she's a hero for me. She is an organizer. She is a promoter of such a big number of different projects. She also is co-author of the Ukrainian model of audio description. She is executive director of the Ukrainian civic organization, Ukrainian Union of disabled people. She has created 70 plus adapted cartoons and other movies. And yes, together with Oksana, we have created the very first course on audio description and Lviv. And during this course, we've been through all the stages, and ending with our trial how to record the session in the studio. And we now have a great team of experts we are working with. We have created an audio description to the movie in such a beautiful people, and also we tried to show really our target audience, and we have seen in our own eyes what we have done and what are the conditions for this watching, because the conditions were absolutely appalling. And in fact, it is our next motivation to get another level, not to have everything actually in one not spacey room. Another project we've tried to create, it was the first excursion of the sign language in Lviv. We had it with a group of my friends, and we held it for 25 participants of the civilian organization UTIC, and it also was a very good experience for us because our excursion was not perfect, but because initially we didn't have full-fledged understanding, but children, they supported us from the very beginning, and as this event was covered in media a lot, then touristic companies approached us with a request to hold other excursion, and then we noticed that of course there is a demand for that, and people are ready to buy it. Next slide is a very metaphorical road. I do understand that we are at the very beginning on the implementation of our services, but the most important thing here is to understand that there are different elements on our way, and it is of our matter on how the civilian population will understand the necessity to pay for these services, that they shouldn't be done voluntarily. And that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anastasia. I have only one question. Are you planning to repeat the course on audio description, maybe online, for those who might be very interested in? Of course, we do plan, and we are working on that. So please follow our Linguistics Center on all of our social media platform.
Not the least participant of our panel discussion of accessibility is Sabina Yasinska. The floor is yours. We can see and hear you.
Thank you. You can hear me already, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So hello everyone. Great to see you. I'm sorry I'm not there with you this time. Big congratulations to the interpreters. You are really amazing. So my interest in accessibility comes from two. No, it is really incredible. It's very easy to follow. I was listening to the previous panelists, and amazing experience. So big congratulations. So my interest in accessibility comes from two sides. So first, from developing what's called web accessibility remediation solutions for our clients, which are services aimed at making content accessible for people with disabilities. In addition, I'm also an ex-attorney and a marketing professional. So for me, what's interesting is the area where law and marketing meet. And it's an incredible moment for us because on one side, we see the number of accessibility regulations rise around the world, but on the other, inclusive marketing and inclusive design is going mainstream. So the second reason is that I'm also honored to lead from the marketing perspective the disability workstream at the Diversity Project, which is a member organization and association championing diversity and inclusion standards in the UK savings and investment industry. So we work with top banks, top asset management firms, insurance companies. We have 17 work streams, including ethnicity, gender, LGBT, and of course, disability, which is my work stream. And our goal is to raise awareness, but also to convince businesses to join the UK Disability Confidence Scheme, so enable the workforce who have disabilities to have optimal environment to work despite their condition. And it's been an incredible and really very personal experience for me to work with this workstream because I was able to meet inspiring individuals who are our role models, who really helped me what it means to live with a disability. They work for top banks and have incredible careers. However, it was always harder for them than for everybody else to succeed and to deliver. So let me tell you about a few of those inspiring individuals who really help us understand what it means to live with a disability. One of them is Tim, who's the global marketing lead for HSBC, so the biggest bank in the world, who is also born deaf. So for him, COVID was a blessing, but also a curse at the same time, because he cannot understand you when you have your mask on your face, because he cannot read from your lips. At the same time, he can also have an AI interpreter, which is an automated service when he participates in a video call, for example, so he can read the transcript. However, that also represents some difficulties because you cannot schedule a last-minute Zoom call because he has to have time to book this AI interpreter. Also, you have to give him time during the discussion to actually read your question and then respond or contribute. So you always have to wait for him. And also you need to send him all the materials in advance because he cannot read the slides at the same time as his transcript from the AI interpreter. So it is really learning how to work with a colleague who has a disability, how you need to really help him thrive and contribute. There's another person who works for Amundi, which is a big investment firm. He lost 2 legs due to sepsis infection following a skiing accident. So he's on a wheelchair and actually has 4 wheelchairs, which actually shows you how expensive it is to have a disability. So 1 wheelchair is for home, 1 is for the garden, 1 is for the city, and 1 is for playing tennis. And if he uses all 4 of them in one day, it means it was a good day because he also played tennis. And for him, COVID and lockdown was a blessing because it was really exhausting for him to go to the office in the city of London every day in his suit on two prostheses with his skin being irritated. Well, now he can actually stay at home, he can lay down if he needs to. And he says that every employer should really understand the needs of the disabled group because they still deliver, but they might need to have a special, special opportunity, for example, to lay down or to take a break. Another person is an HR director for Pictet who has vision difficulties. And she says that she always hated the fact that in investment management industry, you have to wear a suit and a white shirt, while she cannot see if she has a stain on her shirt when she dresses up in the morning. So she would feel more comfortable wearing, for example, flowers or some colorful patterns that will hide those stains. Another person, which actually is quite famous right now, and I think you might have read some media coverage about it, it's Caroline Casey. She's the founder of Valuable 500, which is actually the biggest association in the world uniting the CEOs of top firms. She was born blind, but she was hiding this condition from her colleagues, so her colleagues didn't even know about it, and she worked for Accenture. So she came up at the age of 28, and she decided that she wants to help other people who also have disabilities, and she created this organization and the social cause at one of the big economic meetings. She actually stood on a stage and she said, "Who would like to join me?" And Apple, Microsoft, all the biggest companies joined this cause and added disability to their leadership agenda. And finally, I also had an opportunity to meet some incredible social entrepreneurs. And one of them, an inspiring one, created a clothing line called Able to Wear. So basically, there's the founder and the CEO of this company realized when she was for an extended time in a hospital, she realized that people with disabilities don't wear any fashion because they have to wear all those baggy clothes. They cannot wear dresses. They cannot wear trousers because they have to wear something that it's easy to take off or to insert the tube. So she decided to create this clothing line, which is actually beautiful dresses for people who, for some of them, it's the first time they were actually able to wear a dress. That it's easy to take off, so it doesn't have buttons. That has all those different holes to insert tubes. And she wants everyone to feel good and feel great. And also, she created another side business, which unites like a network of seamstresses around London who can also adapt your favorite dresses after you had an accident. Because most of the people had to throw out everything, or maybe they keep it because it has a sentimental value, but they can never wear it again. So those are all touching and beautiful stories of people who are willing to share and champion those inclusion and accessibility standards within their industries and organizations. But coming back to the main subject, we asked the question about if it's a right, a compliance task, or maybe it's also good for business. And let me show you here some numbers. Why are we even talking about accessibility? Because altogether, there are 1.85 billion people, so almost 2 billion people in the world living with a disability. There's 1 in 5 UK adults living with a disability. That represents 18 million people. 1 in 4 Americans living with a disability. That represents 60 million people. I checked the numbers for Ukraine. They're only 6%, so 2.7 million people living with disability. However, I believe that those numbers are very low because only 9% of people report that they have a disability. They only report it when it's visible. Over 70% of the disabilities are invisible, and one of them is dyslexia, which is actually considered a disability. In addition, there is another issue of aging population. So 40% of people at the age of 60 to 70 already have a disability. In general, 80% of us will acquire a disability in our working life. But when you look at people who are 80 and plus, it's half of them have already age-related disability. So it's a huge number of people. So the combined buying power of all of those people is 13 trillion US dollars. And by disregarding the needs of this group, you absolutely narrow your audience. So it's like saying no to one to five or 1 to 4 customer entering your shop. And on one side, you have the heavy penalties that companies face if they fail accessibility compliance and different millions paid in damages. But it's only a fraction of the cost that they pay for lost reputation, reduced revenues. It's really hard to measure how many customers they are losing. On the other side, by increasing access to people with differing abilities, we open ourselves not only to potential new audience, but also to new ways of thinking, higher levels of innovation, and by avoiding those issues that make interaction so difficult, physically tiring, inefficient, or maybe practically impossible for people with a disability, we can make a better user experience for everyone. And we could create new products that are delightful for all of us. One of the great and actually famous examples for that is Siri, which was developed by Apple first for people who are blind. But now we know that the voice control systems and products and solutions are mainstream, and we all are using Siri or similar products. And Apple Cook, so the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, he said that when Apple works on devices for the blind, they really don't care about ROI. Because at the end, they know that they're going to acquire more customers who will be delighted by Apple products. Because at the end, it's all about customer experience, and only the companies and the brands who offer great customer experience are going to stand out in the market. So there's absolutely a lot to do for all of us in terms of inclusive marketing, inclusive design, and accessible solutions. And there's a huge mission of the language industry because at the end, everything starts with understanding the language and understanding the message. So it's a huge opportunity and a huge mission and a huge responsibility for all of us.
Thank you very much. I see that our audience is yet fascinated by more and more another possibilities in terms of accessibility, because actually web accessibility, which is required by law in some countries and territories, is also an option to go. And here in this track of audiovisual translation, we are at crossroads with sign language, which was a part of interpretation track, and also with localization in terms of making websites accessible. And now time for several audience questions, if we have. Чи є в когось питання до будь-кого з панелі?
If you have any questions, please ask them to any of our panel participants. I could see that everybody is so inspired reprocessing the information. So let's applaud to our panelists. Thank you very much for all of you participating here. But actually, I have one small question. So are you there? Are you online? Okay, you're there. Great, because I have a question. Please bring me people back. So Sabrina.
Just come up with it. If, for example, a foreigner, because you are the only one not in Ukraine right now, other panelists are here or remotely, but in Ukraine. But if a foreigner comes to a country and they require accessibility services, is it good enough now in different countries of the world with that foreign accessibility services for foreigners in another country?
I would say not at all. I think we're all learning, and we can see in Europe that accessibility regulations are rising. And so we can see more of that. So, for example, I read somewhere that in Kiev, only 4% of the entire infrastructure is adapted for people with disabilities. Only 4%. So it's very little. In Warsaw, for example, I know that the capital, so the government of our capital now is adapting tube stations and entrance to different trams. Now, it's 2021. It is a bit late. So and also what I was saying before, 70% of disabilities are invisible. For example, Tim from HSBC, you wouldn't know that he's deaf. But when he's on the tube and there's an announcement saying like, please leave the tram now because it's the last station, he doesn't know what's happening because there's no message for him explaining why everybody is leaving the train.
Yeah.
So I think we all have some work to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. In every sphere, there is a great way forward. So thank you very much all for joining us.
Can I add something?
Yes. Yes.
Дуже хотіла би
Thank you. I have noticed one important thing as we, as a civil organization, always speak and bring our attention to it. It's important to use the correct terminology. And then we speak about disability. It's very important that we don't speak about some disadvantages. No, we speak about impairments, visual impairments, physical impairments, hearing impairments. So a person who doesn't see or hear, and we don't say deaf people or blind people. It seems that it's not important, but actually from within these linguistic elements starts the attitude to people with disabilities in the society. That's why I really would like to use a correct human rights-centered approach for terms and nature of these terms. I don't want to use a lot this deaf or blind people, but better people with disabilities. Maybe also I would like to invite you to an event, and we arranged already similar events. That's a training for sound description courses. That was arranged last autumn for students of our university, of one of our university in Lviv, and now we are going to provide this course for general public, and it will be published on our website, Fight for Rights. Please, if you are interested, go there and join us. Yeah.
Sorry, Sabina, but we run out of time.
Great.
But you can join in the evening in REMA and other business conferences. You can have just like 1 more minute. Sabina, 1 more minute for you.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, just one interesting thing that I've learned, exactly what you mentioned about the right language to use. So one of the trainings that we got at the Diversity Project was how to even talk about disabilities. And for example, in English, you shouldn't use the word disabled person, because this is the perspective of a society that disabled that person. So disabled person is to avoid. A person with disabilities says that person has a differing ability. So it is a more neutral and safe term to use. Just an interesting fact.
Дякую. Сподіваюся, що наша аудиторія тепер буде.
I hope that our audience will use correct terms. So I just heard translation from English. Don't use in the Ukrainian translation людина з обмеженими можливостями. Please use людина з інвалідністю. It's very important. Don't use in the Ukrainian translation a person with specific needs.